In a move that has sent shockwaves through the international legal community, 3 West African nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have jointly announced their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, better known as the ICC. In a fierce joint statement, the military-led governments accused the court of functioning as an instrument of neo-colonial repression, serving Western interests while selectively punishing African states. But is this a step toward true independence and justice for Africa, or a strategic shield for authoritarian regimes? The answer lies deeper than headlines. Let's explore what's really happening and why it matters for the entire continent. The International Criminal Court was created in 2002 to prosecute the world's worst crimes: genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression. Its promise? No leader would be above the law. But from the very beginning, cracks formed in this idealistic vision. Powerful nations like the United States, Russia, China, and Israel never ratified the Rome Statute, meaning they are not subject to the court's jurisdiction. Yet African leaders found themselves repeatedly in the crosshairs. Over the years, the ICC has opened more than 70% of its cases on African soil. The optics couldn't be worse: a Western court, based in Europe, mostly trying Africans. It's no surprise that more and more African countries have begun to question: is this justice, or is this domination repackaged in legal form? Enter the alliance of Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, 3 nations that have not only thrown out French troops and suspended ties with ECOWAS, but are now writing a new legal doctrine. In their fiery joint declaration, they called the ICC a selective and imperial tool, incapable of prosecuting powerful nations or addressing clear war crimes. Without naming Israel or the West, the implication was loud and clear. From Gaza to Ukraine, from US invasions to NATO bombings, the silence of the ICC speaks volumes. The Sahel trio has had enough. They've chosen rupture over reform, resistance over compliance. Let's talk about the elephant in the courtroom: double standards. The US is not a member of the ICC. Yet it pressures African countries to remain under its jurisdiction. Israel has been accused of war crimes, but remains untouched. NATO's intervention in Libya caused thousands of civilian deaths, but no trials followed. In contrast, African leaders like Sudan's Omar al-Bashir were hunted down, some detained for years, only to be released without convictions. This hypocrisy is not lost on Africa. When the Sahel states say they're done playing by foreign rules, they're not just rejecting the ICC. They're rejecting centuries of Western legal dominance. The big question: if not the ICC, then what? The 3 countries have proposed creating indigenous mechanisms of justice, systems rooted in local values, traditional law, and regional cooperation. But no concrete plans have been laid out, no courts announced, no procedures shared. Critics say this is just a smokescreen to shield abuses and consolidate power. Supporters argue it's a bold and necessary first step in reclaiming judicial sovereignty, one where Africa writes its own definitions of justice, accountability, and leadership. This is where the battle lines are being drawn, between foreign courts and local solutions, between external control and self-determination. Africa is not united on this issue. Countries like Gambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo have openly cooperated with the ICC, using it to investigate war crimes and mass killings. Others, like South Africa, have considered withdrawal in protest. There is a growing debate across the continent. Do African nations gain justice through international institutions, or by building their own? One side sees withdrawal as regression into impunity. The other sees it as liberation from colonial legality. This isn't just about law. It's about identity, about dignity, about who gets to decide what justice means for Africans, outsiders, or Africans themselves. Make no mistake, this is not a regional issue. If 3 countries can successfully exit the ICC and build their own legal mechanisms, it sets a precedent. Others may follow. The global justice system is already fragile. The ICC relies on international legitimacy to function. If it's seen as biased or worse, irrelevant, it could collapse under its own weight. Meanwhile, powers like Russia, also under ICC indictment, quietly applaud the Sahel's move. The balance of global influence is shifting. The West's legal institutions are no longer sacred. Africa is no longer silent. So what's really behind this withdrawal? Is it a brave act of sovereignty from nations tired of being judged by the same powers that once colonized them? Or is it a calculated escape hatch by military rulers with something to hide? The answer, as always, depends on who you ask and what justice means to you. But one thing is clear. The age of unquestioned Western legal dominance is ending. Africa is choosing its own path, not without risks, but with eyes wide open. If you want to follow this evolving story of African sovereignty, power, and global justice, subscribe now to Great Traore TV. We bring you the stories the mainstream won't, with depth, truth, and the voice of a rising continent.